Hours to midnight, our metal show presenting Gwar. They're on the Stoned Age tour with Dark Funeral and Squid Pisser. Oh, that's a good lineup. The night after Halloween, get that out of the way, and then Friday, November 1 at the world-famous Agora is the Gwar Show. Bring a poncho. AgoraCleveland.com for all the details. This pair for you if you're caller 10. Good luck. 216-578-1007 or 800-348-1007.
To all our men and women in uniform,
I've been a lifelong fan, 20 years in the military, come back, and I find your afternoon show is f***ing horrible.
thanks. From the Alan Cox Show
Horrible.
on 100.7.
Way I can't be tracked that as well.
We saw your drones earlier. Already.
You know, a lot of clubs have wanted to chip me, like put the chip in me so they can. But I'm like,
That's
no.
for your safety.
That's for my safety.
You're not sewing air tags into your skivvies or anything like that?
Boy, the AirTag thing. What do you know about the AirTag thing?
It's getting to be a real problem.
Is it?
Yeah,
Like, can your
re-
spouse keep track of you
Oh,
with
yeah.
an AirTag thing?
Yeah. That's why AirTag, you know how technology always outpaces like policy, right? Any
Yes.
technology, they're
Yes.
way behind in kind of regulating what they need to regulate.
Yes.
AirTags are way beyond that, where they're seeing a sharp increase in like restraining orders and things like that because of dudes putting AirTags in their wife's car and they don't know that kind of stuff. So it's a real it's
And
good.
stalkers and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
As a true crime buff, I applaud it.
Well, so it gives you new content. Yeah.
Max Cady from Cape Fear
Yeah.
Name drop.
did it the old-fashioned way. Do you remember when there's a scene in the movie where he latches on to the bottom of the chassis
Yeah.
and actually drives for, I don't know, it was a long ride.
That's
Yeah.
how I started working with Eddie.
You hung on to the chassis.
onto the chassis.
Yeah.
It was
The
the-
Kurt Russell and breakdown move.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course, you're talking about De Niro Max Cady, or you're talking about the OG Max Cady?
Now, with the OG,
Careful.
was that Mitchum?
That
It was
Mitchum.
Robert Mitchum.
He's
Robert
good,
Mitchum.
but I was talking
And Gregory
about
Peck, yeah? Was it Gregory Peck?
I believe you're
the
correct.
lawyer.
Yeah.
Hey, leave me alone.
Because it was Nick Nolte in the 80s.
That's correct.
With De Niro?
You with De Niro. Juliette Lewis
Yeah.
sucking her finger. It was
Yeah.
or sucking his finger or something.
Yeah.
just
Oh,
talking
that was
about
the
Juliette Lewis.
sucking finger
Yeah.
movie.
Juliette
I
Lewis
just
was
met her.
she was the
That
original
was
Hawk
one
Tuah
of
girl.
the sucking finger movies.
I just met her a month ago. She's wonderful.
The Hawk Tuah girl or
No,
Juliette Lewis?
I like that, because pornography there's too much, it's too vivid.
Oh, speak for yourself.
Pornography leaves nothing to the imagination, whereas the little thumb in the mouth was perfect.
Well, we grew up, though, in a time where I feel confident lumping you and I together generationally.
Sure.
We
I
grew-
consider that flattering.
We grew up in a time where pornography had a lot of story,
That's true.
right? It was
true,
story.
too.
True.
Yeah, there's no plot anymore.
Story and music
Yeah.
and cinematography.
Pornography used to be the story was front and center, interrupted by sex. Now
That's
it's
very
completely
true.
the other way.
I forgot about. You're right about that.
Yeah.
It used to be, and it usually involved though
Pizza
like
delivery.
pizza,
Mm-hmm.
Plumbers.
plumbers, or
yeah.
cable guys.
Here
Yeah.
to snake the drain.
It was old pornography was very pro trade school, as it turned out, right?
It made me
That's
want
a
it.
good point. Well, it was the timeline of shop class.
Yes.
It what?
Shop class.
What about
Home
shop?
ec. Well, that's the time. Those don't exist anymore, right? And so
Well, they have them. It's called something else.
life
like
skills or something.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it used to be
This is if you're too stupid to get a job in IT. That
Yeah,
was mean of
maybe.
me to
That's
say
kinda
because
mean.
I'm not a big IT
I think of it
guy.
as post-apocalyptic, tangible survivalist skills.
And they always
Right,
talk
really.
so down on all those trade jobs
You're
when
right.
you're in school.
I'm
and then
an
you find
idiot
out,
for
they,
saying
like,
that.
and they're like, oh, if you don't pay attention to school, you're going to be a garbage man. Then you find out how much garbage men make. You're
Yeah.
like, I could have been
Yeah.
a garbage
Yeah,
man.
what are you, an
not-
electrician?
and how like invaluable they all are. Like they're out doing
well,
stuff.
right, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm an idiot for saying that, because it's amazing when you meet someone who can like do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I never. My
IT guys now are a dime a dozen. I mean, there's companies that are slashing those
Yes.
people, right? Working
Yes.
remotely or whatever. A plumber don't work remotely, right? There's no way to there's no way to, if you will, Bill, log into the toilet and figure out
if you will, Bill.
if you will, log into the toilet. Yeah. So Eddie Pepitone and JT are back in town to do hilarities tonight. This is a show I'm confident in telling people they should not miss.
Thank you.
A 7 o'clock show.
I
7
think
o'clock.
so because when I go out there, I just put it all out.
I know you do.
Put it all out.
Leave it all on
Leave
the
it on the
field.
floor, right?
Yeah.
Dana Gould called me the human id.
Mm-hmm.
Where I just get out
and
all
he is
the
who?
The
Yes.
human superego. That's Dana Gould. Yeah. The human id is you.
We're arch villains.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
Somebody texted me earlier when I mentioned you're going to be on, and they were like, Eddie was on the first season of. You were in a million things.
Every show.
Every show, but the first season of Last Comic Standing.
That's right.
And I literally, as big of a fan of yours as I am, that completely went past me.
Yeah, and nobody knew about that show. Like that show, boom. All of a sudden, the next day after I appeared, this is a funny story. Well, not that funny, but
He's going to tell it anyway.
but
Don't give
interesting.
away the
I
score.
was at the Nantucket Film Festival.
Yep. Oh, pardon me.
And
Must be
I
nice.
only go there for the wine. Anyway, I was there. It was an extraordinarily extra dry, kind of a playful finish Cabernet.
The Beaujolais was to die for.
It
up
was
there.
playful.
Yeah.
It was a playful.
Nice concentration. Yeah.
And Mos Def, do you know?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
He
Yasin Bey.
started singing to me as I was walking by him the Eddie Pepitone theme song,
Yeah.
which was something I did on Last Comic Standing, where I go, my theme song was Eddie Pepitone. I introduced it by saying, we don't have people in this country anymore to write great folk songs about. We have no heroes, but
Yeah.
my theme song would be Eddie Pepitone, he just borrowed another $5,000. Eddie Pepitone, he's afraid to go in elevators for some reason.
It's a real everyman type of story,
Yes.
though. Yeah.
Yes.
You're our modern day Arlo Guthrie, is what you're trying to say.
Arlo Guthrie.
Yeah.
I've worked with you for half a decade, and I'm just finding out Mos Def serenaded you.
That's beautiful.
your own
Nantucket.
song.
Your own song.
I think you know
Yeah.
a guy.
In Nantucket.
That's wild.
Yeah.
He didn't even try to make it his own. He just fed it back to you, and
Right. There was no, what do they call it, remix?
Yeah,
There was-
nothing like that.
They didn't sample it.
Sample. That was the word I was looking for.
Well, my most vivid memory of Last Comic Standing was adjacent to that. I was on the air in Pittsburgh, and I was still doing stand-up from time to time.
Oh, yeah?
And the Pittsburgh Improv goes, hey, do you want to open for Dat Fan,
Oh.
who was the winner of season
Yes!
1? Do you want to open for Dat Fan? And I go,
It's not
yes,
too late.
of course. Like, well, it's funny you say that because, like, it was like a last-minute booking. It was a routing date or something.
Yeah.
So they throw Dat Fan up on the marquee, and they call me, and they go, you want to open for Dat Fan? I go, yeah, sure. I knew that he had won, but I hadn't met him. And so I had 30 minutes, and so I go up. He does 16 minutes as the headliner.
He didn't have
And
any material.
I'm like,
That was that.
oh my God, like literally, because everybody thinks that, even then, everybody thought that Last Comic Standing were all like amateurs. But I'm like, no, these are all comedians that are seasoned professional people. You've just never heard of them, and they haven't been on television, but they know what they're doing.
Right.
So when he goes up and does 16 minutes, all I could think of was how pissed that audience had to have been.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was nice enough, but I was like, oh
He's a
my,
nice
now
guy.
what do we do? I don't even know if the guy's still around.
He's one of the last holdouts of still doing Zoom shows.
Oh,
And
really?
he-
Are
yeah,
you serious?
yeah, he does-
voluntarily doing Zoom
he does
shows?
Zoom shows with like 30 comics on them.
Wow.
It's a weird
Whoa.
LA phenomenon. A buddy of mine named English Matt Donovan.
Who books that?
It looks like the intro to the Brady Bunch every
That's
show.
exactly it. And yeah, I think he does like 8 minutes up top. He built a comedy club in his garage, and that's like the backdrop of it. Wow. So I'm getting this secondhand, but this is like 2
Was he
weeks
in
ago.
Vacaville or something? I
Somewhere
don't
out in
even know where that guy.
Vacaville.
Somewhere in California.
I don't even know where that guy is. but-
Undisclosed location.
Undisclosed, yeah.
Well, yeah, he won because that show was first and foremost, especially when it first got on the air, a reality TV show.
Yeah.
And he did this whole thing about crying about his parents in Vietnam.
Okay.
Like,
Oh, he was the
re-
sob story for sure.
It was
Yeah.
a big sob
Yeah.
story. And I had a bigger one. I came from Brooklyn, which was way, I don't know, you
That's
compare
the-
Brooklyn to Vietnam.
That's the
I'd
Vietnam
much-
of New York.
Well, now it's very,
Gentrified.
Gentrified.
Yeah.
But
back then,
back then it was we all lived in like a boiler room. Our slogan was not another day, that kind of thing.
The best thing about those shows, the Last Comic Standing and also like World Series of Comedy and any of those things is that you win work, which I always thought was hilarious. It's like, congratulations, you win all of these jobs in markets you don't necessarily want to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was funny because I was the opposite. I was so like anti like everything about the contrivedness of it.
You were the wild card.
Well, yeah, and a couple of the guys.
Well, you were saying that Stiller was so aghast. You told me that
Diller.
What?
Barry Diller?
Phyllis Diller.
No, not
Phyllis
Phyllis Diller. Not Phyllis Diller, sir.
Phyllis Diller.
Who?
Ben Stiller?
Ben Stiller's father. You told me
Jerry
you told
Stiller.
Jerry Stiller about it, and he was horrified.
Yeah, he was like,
Phyllis Diller.
buddies with Jerry Stiller, and who is what a beautiful man. And he used to go, why are they making comedians compete against each other? Like he saw it as, what the hell is that?
But the first lineup of judges were who? Jay Moore?
Jay Moore was involved.
No, Jay was the host.
Jay was the host.
He was the host.
Was
okay.
Alonzo Bowden involved then?
No, because he was still
he
was season 2, right?
Right.
He's like season
he
2.
won or something.
He won like the 3rd season when they just mushed people together. Yeah,
I know Eliza started it.
Eliza won.
She wrote the first World War II joke.
What?
Yeah, I forget who the judges were, but I remember
Eliza's dog.
I was in it 2 years, believe it or not.
Really?
Okay.
My manager at the time. I really have been through a lot.
Well, no, you have, and it's
I have.
My favorite thing about you though is you've really remained that iconoclastic kind of. That's a lame word to use, but
I like
you
it.
know what I'm saying.
I like
Like
it.
you've kind of done it the way you wanted to
that's
do
right.
it, and you had to bring everybody else along, and eventually they would come along.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't recommend it for other people because financially it hasn't been the greatest.
Right.
But I did stick to my guns with stand up.
Well, people might because comedy now is such a different thing. Like funny's funny, but the machine is different.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
It might seem strange to people that nobody gets into comedy to get rich. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody who goes into it and goes, "Man, I'm going to be that." You might, but if
Yeah.
you're going into it for that, you're probably going to be sorely, sorely disappointed. So you gotta love it.
That's right.
You gotta love it.
Yeah. That
Even now, when people are like, "Oh, I'll just go up and YouTubers doing comedy clubs," and you don't blame the club because they got to put asses in seats, and
Right.
YouTubers will fill the place up, but they don't have an act. It's mostly
They don't
Q&A.
have
they'll
an
fill it up
act.
once.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
that's
it's-
right.
I always see all
You'll
those
never go back to see
social
them.
media sensation,
Yeah.
and that alone just that tells you what it is. They're coming once, and that's,
But they do make a lot of money, those people on social media,
Yes,
don't they?
they do.
Yeah, so
So
they
the-
should keep it there. I
The
think.
machine is different, but I'm still enough of a purist where I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I like jokes.
right.
I love jokes. And
Yeah.
not everybody, Eddie Pepitone is a podcast purist. Apocalypse soon, right?
Yes.
He's not
Have you
he's not
seen-
too
have
good
you
for that.
listened to any of that?
Yeah, of course.
Because it's just absurd. I started out because I'm very political. I'm going to talk about just the deterioration of what's going on, like the collapse of civilization. So I called it Apocalypse. But it's just evolved into an absurd thing where
Or devolved, as it were.
devolved more
Yeah.
like it, where I just do this. Like I do one segment called Driving in the Rain, and I'm like, the rain was coming down. So it's just me monologuing.
Yeah.
The rain was coming down faster and harder than Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like just on and on and on.
Kind of a Dashiell Hammett vibe there
Yeah,
on the
that's
podcast.
yeah,
There
film,
you go.
yeah,
Yep.
noir.
Uh-huh.
A noir vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apocalypse Soon with Eddie Pepitone. It's on the iHeartRadio app.
Oh.
And of course, yeah, of course. And whatever other podcast machines people use, they'll find it there too.
Yeah, but well, part of being an iconoclast is you don't know where your things are being shown or playing.
You put them out into the ether. How they're distributed is somebody else's problem,
That's
isn't it?
right.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not in this for the business end of
That's
it. but-
right.
So Eddie Pepitone and JT are doing hilarities tonight. That's a 7 o'clock show. If you are one of our listeners in Pittsburgh, they are
Yes.
doing the Bottle Rocket Social Hall tomorrow night. Do both of you go back out in the Chris Gethard thing? Or is that just you?
Just me.
Just
That's
you.
just him.
JT goes home, sits in the garage, or do you go out and do your own dates?
I've been working doing weekends with Brian Posehn, so that's
awesome.
where I'm coming
Yeah,
from,
okay.
and so I go out with Brian again.
Now that's an
in 2 weeks.
iconoclast. I mean, if we were talking about that.
Brian?
Yeah.
Just
He
his
does his
beard?
own thing.
Does his own
He
thing.
does
Yeah.
his own thing.
Yeah, Brian and I have known each other for about a decade or so. But yeah, Eddie and I always seem to come back together. So
Yeah. We'll see.
He just can't quit you. He just can't quit you. The two of you together.
yeah, I don't know. Gethard's got my glasses though, so we'll see what happens. He's a similar aesthetic.
He's just collecting them, or he has
No,
similar?
he has a similar.
Oh, okay, they
similar
stole
vibe.
your glasses.
Similar vibe. We'll see.
Yeah, I
He's
gotta get them
younger and
back.
stronger than me.
And we're doing the show right before the debate tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so you
done
can go
in
to the
time for
show
the debate.
and be home in time for the debate.
Yes.
Be home.
Or you get
Where have you heard that in America for a while? Of course, this isn't people aren't like watching this debate intellectually, like the
No.
Douglas Lincoln
No,
debates.
it's popcorn
This,
chewing.
which is a
They
while
want,
ago.
They want blood and fireworks.
They want blood and fireworks.
Was it a while ago? It seems like only
What
yesterday.
is time? The Lincoln's Douglas.
Douglas Lincoln debates. This is a true story. Abraham Lincoln would debate Stephen Douglas. A debate would last a period of days, and they would go on hours daily. Like they would debate 4 hours, then break for dinner, and debate another 5 hours.
I say bring that back.
Hmm?
I say bring it back.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
Trump and
Oh,
Biden
God.
going for
But debate about dinner. You come back and you argue over the dinner.
mashed potatoes?
Who's seen creamed kale in 100 years? It's terrible. It sucked.
Creamed kale.
The old automats. Just slide the door and it's right there. You know, growing up in Brooklyn, the old automats, baby.
Automat.
Yeah.
You just that's how lunch should be, behind a little glass door with the handle, and you just get a ham and cheese sandwich that may or may not be toxic.
You don't know how long it was there. There's condensation in the inside of the plastic door.
You know what that reminds me of? They actually have food at gas stations, and I always feel like when I buy a bologna sandwich at Shell that this could go either way.
Right.
There's sushi at gas
Yeah,
stations.
there's.
It's like
Yeah.
7-Eleven sushi, I think, right?
Man. Yeah, well,
We'll put anything in a
listen,
gas station these
it's
days,
a
so.
brave new world, and it's your money, and you can do whatever you want to with it.
We are so beaten down by, like, when you talk about the technology and everything, and I just think it's hilarious that I was thinking of a bit where there'd be a sushi chef coming out of a shell to greet you. You're like filling your car with gas, and he's like, "Hello, welcome. We have some specials today inside." And he's
Hold
like,
on. What accent is that?
I don't know.
Why is he
I was saying
Transylvanian?
sushi.
It's perfectly it's perfectly non-distinct.
Yes.
It sounded like Dracula.
Yes.
It's that Transylvanian sushi. Eddie Pepitone is doing this show tonight, 7 o'clock at Hilarities. If there are tickets remaining, you could just walk right up and get them. You go to eddiepepitone.com for all the upcoming dates. He goes back out on that Sweet and Sour tour with Chris Gethard. They're doing Woodstock. They're doing Kansas City. They're doing the Bottom Lounge in my hometown of Chicago, Illinois. It's one of my favorite venues in that city. It's either
You are?
it's pinball. That's what this says. August 16th. We're
I'm
at the
not
Bottom
aware of
Lounge in
it.
You
Chicago.
just recorded a special in Chicago.
Yeah, I just recorded a special, by the way.
At the Den? Where did you do it in Chicago?
I did it at an iconic little place.
Gorgeous place.
Lincoln Hall.
Oh, Lincoln Hall's awesome.
It's
yeah.
basically for musicians, but I had played there a couple of times,
We got him a pass.
and it was really cool.
Yeah, he
And
killed it.
so my new special is going to be coming out in a month or two.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Because it's
I'm
been a
looking
minute,
forward-
right? The last
It's
one
been
was
a minute, yeah.
pre-COVID, I think. I feel like it was.
I think it's been 3
Best
or 4
special
years.
of 2020 by the New York
That's
Times.
right. I got best.
Yeah.
My line is, and who knows comedy more than the New York Times? That is one funny publication.
Arts and entertainment. Yeah. We got it all covered.
Nice.
Well, what's it going to be called?
You know what? I'm thinking.
You haven't figured it out yet, have you?
Right, but I'm thinking, what do you think, JT? Personal War.
That's
Eddie
pretty good.
Pepitone's Personal War, because it's all about how
That's pretty good.
I'm a divided self.
Oh,
I like
okay.
Love Through
And we're a
Windows.
divided nation, so it's an
Yes.
interesting kind of.
Yeah.
There's a theme
There's a-
running through
yeah.
it, is what you're
There's
saying.
a concept there.
Did
All
you ever
right.
see River Running Through It? Terrific little fly fishing movie
With Robert Redford.
with Robert. If you get
Yeah.
a chance, folks, please rent that out.
Yeah.
There you go.
They
Rent
did
it.
it.
I'm
Rent it
Don't
out.
rent it out.
You know what? Stay home. Don't go see.